Warm regards and well wishes, everybody. It is that time of year again. The Christmas tree is up, a fireplace is gently crackling, and it's time to put some of our favorite Christmas albums onto the turntable. So that's exactly what we're going to do. My name's Adam McDormand, and this is Medium Quality. So I've actually made this video before. Some years ago when I pulled every single Christmas record that I owned off of the shelf and discussed them at length in a video. But, the record collection is not a static thing. There are albums that leave the collection, new things that get added, and in those years, my meager selection of holiday tunes has changed a little bit. So I've pulled 5 albums off the shelf that I think are perfect for getting in the mood for the Christmas season. First up, Home Alone Christmas. Now, out of all of the Christmas albums that I picked up over the last few years, I wanted to talk about this one first because I think it's the most recognizable. For me, there's no argument that Home Alone very much belongs in the pantheon of classic Christmas movies, especially if you're from my generation and you grew up seeing Kevin McAllister as like the idealized Christmas experience. Not the part where your parents accidentally abandon you and your house gets burglarized, but definitely the part where you have a house full of family, maybe too full of family, so much so that you kind of want them to not be there anymore, but also like you really do love them. And all of that, I think, is embodied by the music on this LP. Not to be confused with the vinyl release of the film score of Home Alone. This is 12 tracks of music featured in Home Alone 1 and 2, alongside a couple of the most memorable John Williams pieces from those two movies. It's pressed to what I think they refer to as Christmas Party vinyl. It's kind of this red and green smoke on crystal clear. It kind of reminds me a little bit of my great-grandmother's fruitcake. And of course, this is by no means an audiophile recording, but I don't really require that of most of my Christmas music. I just want something that sets a mood, that takes me to a time and place, that gives me that nostalgic holiday feeling, and this absolutely does that. It's a lot of fun. Next up is Duke Pearson's Merry Ole Soul. Now, I know I just said that I don't need my Christmas music to be on audiophile vinyl pressings, but this is pretty darn close. This is a pretty recent Blue Note reissue, lacquers cut by Kevin Gray, and it sounds absolutely incredible. And I highly recommend that you check this out, especially if you like the Vince Guaraldi Trio's Charlie Brown Christmas soundtrack, which may actually be my very favorite Christmas music. This is playing with similar sounds. Now, where the Charlie Brown soundtrack is kind of childlike and playful, very fitting of the theme of that show, this is a little more laid back. It's a little more of kind of what you think when you hear someone say jazz. And yet, there are places where the sound of this kind of intersects with a classic gospel sound, especially where the songs are more spiritual in nature. Songs like Go Tell It on the Mountain or Silent Night. Just fantastic, vintage-sounding jazz performances from Duke Pearson and crew. This is one that's going to be in heavy rotation for me. Highly, highly recommended. Next up is kind of an interesting one. It is the Reader's Digest Have a Merry Christmas vinyl box set. Now, I don't know a whole lot about this. I did some digging online, and it seems that Reader's Digest put out collections of Christmas music on their own record label pretty much every single year from about 1961 to 1988. Other than that, I have no idea how this came to be. Like, was this a freebie you got for signing up for a 12-month subscription to Reader's Digest? Or was this readily available in the department store and you could just grab this and go? One of the things that I really love about Christmas music is that it almost seems to exist outside of time, and yet is also still evocative of a certain time. And, like I mentioned, this collection of songs is very much a snapshot of what might have been considered classic in 1974. And so it's a lot of orchestral music, a lot of traditional singing groups and choirs, and then you have a few highlights from your Bing Crosby, your Perry Como, which themselves have become timeless, iconic sounds of Christmas. But this package is surprisingly nice. Each one of these records is in a plastic lined sleeve. Each one of them is notched a little bit differently, so you can very easily find 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. And then you've got a lightweight vinyl record inside of here with the track list, and then pretty extensive notes for every single song on every single record. I certainly wouldn't consider this collection to be a musical destination for me, not like Duke Pearson or Vince Guaraldi, where I put that on because I really want to hear those versions of those songs and I want to get lost in the music. This is cool for a very different reason. It is, for me, kind of incidental, and I don't mean that in a negative or pejorative way at all. I simply mean that this is the kind of music that you can put on and it's not going to distract you. You can be in the moment with the people that you're with. This is great Christmas party music because you can kind of just let it ride and not think too much about it. And there's no single track that's going to stop the party and everybody's going to be like, oh, I love that song. It is a perfectly fine set of songs that my dad handed off to me after holding on to this for decades, a long time after he got rid of any of his vinyl records or turntable or anything that he might have a use for this for. Next up is another collection of Christmas tunes, A Capital Christmas Volume 2. Now I have A Capital Christmas Volume 1. I talked about it at length on that video from 5 years ago. And at the time I was very interested in picking up Volume 2 to see what else they could add to this collection of classic Christmas songs from the Capitol Records label. The interesting thing about this is that its very existence kind of suggests that it is a lesser collection than Volume 1, right? If you make a collection of the greatest Christmas songs and then you try to make another collection, certainly if you are featuring 2 songs by a young Wayne Newton on a single collection, like maybe you're scraping the bottom of the barrel a little bit. And I don't mean to come down hard on this. I think it's great, but it's certainly not as essential as Volume 1. And for the amount of time that I spend listening to Christmas music every year, maybe I don't need Volume 2. I don't know. There's some great stuff on here, but it's not the greatest stuff. The package is just as good as Volume 1. It's got this great gatefold with notes for every single song on here, which I really enjoy. It's fun to read about the production of the songs and all of the performers on here while listening to the music. So it definitely is a fine addition to a collection of vinyl Christmas albums if you need more. But get the first volume first. Last but certainly not least is the incredible Jimmy Smith's Christmas 64. Now this is an album that my dad and I discovered, I think last year, during one of our annual genre deep dives where we were trying to find some new, fresh Christmas music that we had never heard before. And ironically end up finding an album from 1964 to check out. And he ended up finding this vinyl pressing in a thrift store somewhere for $1 or $2. And I think it's absolutely awesome. If you're trying to find this now, it was later reissued as Jimmy Smith's Christmas Cookin', with this fantastic album cover on the front with Jimmy Smith dressed up like Santa sitting in a red convertible. It's great. This is a really cool album to listen to because it goes back and forth between these really retro sounding organ trio jazz arrangements and larger big band arrangements that are playing alongside the organ trio. I think it makes a really excellent complement to the piano-driven jazz of Duke Pearson and the Vince Guaraldi trio, adds a little bit of something different to the mix. Unfortunately, the copy that I have has some pretty serious edge warp that makes side A not super playable. If you use a record clamp, you can get by with it. Certainly side B, if you clamp it down, it's pretty flat, and it'll play through. It's fine, but certainly by the time I do another one of these Christmas vinyl updates, let's say 5 years from now, hopefully I can find a much better copy of this, because this is a really delightful set of songs. And with that, I will pass it off to you guys. What vinyl records are hitting the turntable for you this year to put you in the holiday spirit? Drop into the comments section below and let me know. And that's going to do it for this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more, feel free to subscribe. Until next time, keep spinning that good stuff. What a time to be alive.